Yo, what's up, guys? We're back to break down another UFC fight night. This week it's Stephen Thompson against Kevin Holland. And I'm really excited for this fight night card. It's funny, I mean, now that they got to sell tickets, they got 15 fights, they got some badass matchups. So I'm glad they went to Orlando. They're not in the Apex this week, and they're going to have to put on a little bit better product to get some butts in the seats so we get to see some better fights on fight night. But yeah, man, the main event's really awesome. We got Striker's Delight in there, and we got some really interesting fights throughout the card. So I'm really excited to break it down and excited to end the year right. You know, this is the last month. This is December 1st. So coming into the home stretch for the UFC for betting this year. And if you want to, get the last few bets, definitely make sure to check out the Patreon. I actually have some bets going down tonight for a BFL. So if you're interested in, watching some fights on UFC Fight Pass, maybe making some money, check that out. And got some fights tomorrow for United Fight League and some other ones. Next week, we got some big cards with Bellator, UFC pay-per-view. So there's still a lot going on, and I still encourage everyone to jump over to the Patreon, make some money. We've killed it this year, so everyone that's been over on that Patreon, they already know that it's been a good investment. We've had a good time over there, cashing some bets this year. So if you want to get into it at the end of this year, get some money for the holidays and then start next year right by already being part of the team, then definitely recommend you do that. And just right before we get this video started, want to give a big shout out to the sponsor of this video that's also been just killing it this year betting wise, and that's cashflowmma.com. They're coming off yet another successful week last week of betting where they hit this parlay with Ante Dolidze and OAM on the PFL championships, which was last week, the day after Thanksgiving. And they also have a play already for this week's card that they have up. So definitely recommend you go to cashflowmma.com. They're some of the best guys in the business. They've been absolutely killing it this year in terms of return on investment, in terms of cash these bets, and they really give you some really good advice. So I definitely recommend going over there, using the free promo that they got going on until the end of the year, which is the promo code MMAGuru. You go over there, you sign up with the promo code MMAGuru, you're going to be able to get access to their bets for the rest of the month for free. And you could see if you like them and see if you want to continue to use them into the next year. And I think you will. I think that you're going to find that they're very good at what they do and very informative. So definitely go to cashflowmma.com, check them out. I really appreciate them sponsoring the channel. And, they've been doing a great job sponsoring the channel all year and really helping me out and helping you guys out make some money too. So definitely go over there and check them out. They definitely deserve it. So cashflowmma.com. And now we're getting into the good stuff. We're getting into the first fight of the night. And just right before we get started, make sure to smash that like button. Let's try to get some more likes on this video, some more interaction. I always say that. And man, you guys have been lacking a little bit lately. So hopefully you guys hit that like button, put some comments down below. Tell me what you think. I would really appreciate some more interaction on this video. I know I'm getting it out a little bit late, so I'm sorry for that. But, had some things going on. But, going to try to get out the next video earlier for the UFC pay-per-view. Going to try to put out a Bellator video. But let's try to get some interaction on this video, get some likes, get some comments, and would really appreciate that. But the first fight of the night here, we got Yasmin Paraguay. She's going to be taking on Estela Nunes. And for Yasmin, she's one of the best young Mexican prospects in MMA today. She's coming out of Entrim Gym. She's 8-0. And she's fought primarily in Combate Americas. She's fought decent opponents, and she's been able to get quite a few knockouts. She's only 23, so she definitely has a chance to be a threat for years to come in the UFC. She primarily is a boxer. She's very good on the feet. She's fast. Throws nice 3-2. She has a good uppercut. She'll throw uppercut twos. She likes to end a lot of her combinations with leg kicks. And she'll throw long punch combinations. She throws a ton of volume. She's always pressuring. She has no issues brawling in the pocket and getting dirty. Her defense does need to improve, but she has a good chin. She'll take shots to give shots. And I will say that she probably has a big advantage on the feet against most opponents that she is going to face. She has 6 knockout wins, and she's been able to not really hurt girls and take them out with one shot, but overwhelm them with volume. And she has good grappling skills. She mostly likes to keep it standing, but she has heavy hips, good takedown defense. She's strong in the clinch. She has good knees. I've seen her hit some body locks. And on top, she's aggressive. She likes to get the crucifix position. I've seen her finish fights there. I haven't really seen Paraguay on her back too much, but the few times that I did see her get taken down, she was able to work back to her feet very quickly. And fighting in Mexico, she's definitely going to have good cardio. She's not going to slow down training at altitude. She's still a little bit unproven, but I think she has the goods to do well in this weight class. And she's going to be taking on Estela Nunes, who, Estela Nunes is another girl that's pretty high level. But so far in the UFC, she just hasn't really been able to get the job done. She's 0-2, and they're definitely trying to feed her to Paraguay, get Paraguay a win over a solid prospect or a solid fighter in Estela Nunes. I wouldn't really call her a prospect anymore, but Nunes, she's a big underdog, but I feel like she has a decent matchup here to, get back off that losing streak and beat someone with a name and get herself right back in the mix. And these girls were supposed to fight in August, but Nunes pulled out with an injury. UFC decided to rebook this fight a few months later, so hopefully there were no setbacks for Nunes. She's as 100% as she could be coming into this fight, and at 30 years old, I definitely see this as one of her final opportunities to pick up a UFC win. With 3 losses in a row, I could see her getting cut, and she looks the part. I mean, she's long, she has a good reach, she's powerful. On the feet, she can fight moving forwards or backwards. I would say she does a better job when she can counter strike. She will switch stances, she's pretty evasive. With Nunes, you really only have to worry about the 3-2s. She'll throw heavy 3-2s as she moves backwards, and she throws heat, so she has power for sure. She's light on her feet. She has pretty good footwork. Early in fight, she's dangerous. She can stick and move. She can land that 3-2. As she starts to slow down, you can see the deficiencies in her overall game start to show. She doesn't really possess great defense. She holds her hands low, tends to try to pull back to avoid punches as opposed to using her feet. Sometimes she can get clipped and hit clean. She's not really a super active kicker, but she does have some decent leg kicks, front kicks. She'll throw some head kicks. She has a taxing style, though, and she definitely slows down. She'll start to, really try to commit and throw blind fire when she gets tired, but her movement wanes, and that's when fighters can start to land more and more on her. And she's durable, but I think Yasmin is tougher. She'll hang in there and get the better of the firefight exchanges if that's what the fight turns into. And Nunes needs to throw a lot more leg kicks. She needs to try to stymie that footwork of Paraguay so she can keep her on the outside, throw those 3-2s, 1-2s, and use that reach to her an advantage. For Nunes, her grappling and wrestling is where she needs work. Her takedown defense is not very good, and when she gets put on her back, she has nothing to really offer there. She knows the basics to be able to survive, but she can get dominated. She has no real get-ups or submission danger off of her back to speak of, and she has been submitted a couple times herself, so I do feel like she's a little bit vulnerable on the ground. And I'm gonna go with Yasmin Paraguay here. I feel like she's a high-level prospect. She definitely is a step up in competition for Estela Nunes. I think it's a tough fight, and Paraguay may even lose the first round, but after that, I think she's gonna start to pick it up, pull away in the last 2 rounds. I'm not as confident as some others in her winning. I think the line should be a little bit closer, but I'm going to go with Yasmin to win, probably 29-28 on the decision scorecards. And this next fight, this should be a really fun fight. Even though it's 2 guys that aren't really big names in the division, it's going to be a firefight here. Francis Marshall, he's a young prospect. He's 6-0 as a pro, 5-0 as an amateur, and he's one of these new breed fighters. He's been training MMA before anything, so he's an all-rounder. One thing that's cool about Marshall is even after going pro in MMA, he decided to come back and, try wrestling for the first time. He decided to compete in the NJSIA Individual Championships in New Jersey. He finished 4th. He was pretty much an unknown entering the competition, but he took out some high-ranked opposition and proved that he definitely can wrestle, and he has good jiu-jitsu as well. He's been training jiu-jitsu since he was 13, so getting, even better with his wrestling will be scary for future opponents. And Francis Marshall, he has good footwork. He stands a little bit upright. His movement could be better, but he has nice boxing. He has a good lead hand. He'll throw 1-2s. He's fast. He has a nice check hook, good 3-2s. His defense leaves a lot to be desired. He doesn't really move his head too much. Super hittable. He will take shots to give shots, and he does keep really high volume. He was able to outwork Hunter Matheus in his last fight. After getting clipped a little bit in the first round, he was able to start to get the better of the exchanges. He hurt Matheus several times and just drowned him with volume down the stretch. His cardio is really good, so he can push a high pace. But in this fight, I think he needs to go to the ground because I think he's going to have a rough go on the feet. I think that Marcelo Rojo, a little bit more refined with the striking, a little bit cleaner. I think he's going to be able to pressure Marshall and land on Marshall and expose that bad defense. So Marshall being the good wrestler and solid grappler that he is, I think he has to go to the takedowns, and he has fast level changes, solid single, good double. He's active. He floats well on top, good back taker, good back control. and 4 of his 6 wins are rear naked choke, so he's dangerous when he can get the back. He's still green. He doesn't really have a ton of experience. And Marcelo Rowe is a step up in competition here, the best striker that Marshall will have faced yet. And with Marcelo Rojo, we got a guy that is a pressure fighter. He has slick boxing, good kicks. He'll switch stances, and he uses a lot of fakes and feints. He's good at with the lead hand, good jab. He'll use the jab to get into range for his crosses, double jab cross. And then he'll drop the straight shots in there. And he's good at feinting the lead hand, coming with the right. Good lead hooks, good straight shots after the lead hooks. And you'll throw a lot of switch stance attacks. He has fast hands. He has power. Calf kicks are on point. Body kicks, head kicks. But when fighters pressure Rojo, he's not as good. He doesn't really move his head. And I've seen some fighters blitz, land hard punches, and drop him. And Rojo seems he's very durable to the head, but he's a little bit susceptible to body shots. You do have to be weary of his counter punches because he does have the power to put you away. So pressuring him sometimes can be dangerous as well. And he does have 8 knockouts. They've all came in the first round. So you have to be smart early. But I think once you take something out of him a little bit, pressuring him, going to the body and pushing him backwards definitely is a way to hinder Rojo and kind of take away a lot of what he does. But Marcelo Rowe, he's not really a grappler, but he's dangerous in the clinch. He likes the tie clinch. He'll have hard knees from there. And I've seen him hurt more than one opponent with knees in the clinch. He has good shots off the break, spinning elbows, just elbows in general. His takedown defense is improving, but it's not necessarily the greatest. I feel like he could definitely, continue to get better in that aspect. And he is good with his guard. He'll throw up triangles, arm bars. All 4 of his submission wins are from catching something from his full guard. But once you pass his guard, I've noticed that he doesn't really fare too well. He tends to panic a little bit and get submitted, and he's been submitted several times. His cardio seems like it's a little bit questionable as well, but I think that, moving up to 45 does help his cardio a little bit. We saw in the fight with Charles Jourdain, he did kind of get worn down and finish in the third, but that was after taking a lot of body shots and a real, back and forth war on the feet with a guy like Jourdain. With this fight, I think that if Marcelo Rojo can pressure, keep it standing, and use that experience, his finesse on the feet, I think he can outstrike Marshall. I think Marshall has not really seen someone like Rojo yet. I don't think he's faced this level of competition. So I'm going to slightly edge the underdog to get the win. I'm going to say that he comes in here and gets the TKO in the second round. But if Francis Marshall can get a takedown or take Rojo shots and push him backwards, I could see it going the other way. So I do think this is a pretty close fight, and I could see Marshall winning. It's just I think he needs to prove more. So I'm going to say he has to prove it to me that he beats Marcelo Rojo. And as of now, I'm going to pick Rojo to win this fight via TKO with his superior striking. So give me Marcelo Rojo to get the win in this one. This next fight is a super fun fight between 2 action fighters. Both fighters are more grapplers than strikers, but their grappling styles are fun to watch, and they're also tough. They're down to brawl. I've seen both of these fighters get hurt super badly, almost finished, and rally back to win. Both these fighters have not really established themselves in the UFC, but for Genaro Valdez, this is more of a do-or-die spot because Valdez, he got finished by knockout in round 1 of his UFC debut. He's yet to pick up a win in the organization. Natan Levy, he lost his first UFC fight by decision, but he was able to come back, pick up a UFC win in his second UFC appearance. I still think Natan Levy could have more success in the UFC at 145 pounds, but in this fight, he's going to be pretty similar size to his opponent, Valdez, so I think it's a fight where both guys have, good advantages, and it's a fair fight, but with Valdez, I think that he has much less potential in comparison to Natan, but he's aggressive. He's willing to brawl. He can grapple. So he's not a pushover. I just don't know how much better he can get with this current style. Both these fighters have good camps behind them. They're going to have good game plans. So it's going to be interesting to see how they both come in here with what they do. But Natan Levy, karate, kung fu, black belt. On the feet, he's a southpaw, and he has really fast, heavy kicks. His hands are still developing, but he has a good jab. He'll throw jab to high kick combos. He'll throw jab leg kicks. He's fast and he has good evasive movement. He'll try to pull fighters into pull twos, front knees up the middle, and he has a good left hook. He will throw some hand combos moving backwards as well, even though his hands aren't extremely technical. They do come fast and they are, pretty powerful. Fighters can get Levy in a boxing range, though. You could tell he's not that comfortable there. He's hittable, he's hurtable, but with his kicks, he's very good. He throws, a good diversity of kicks, spin kicks. He has very fast lead leg kicks, and he could switch stances, throw kicks with both legs. So his kicks are dangerous. He does tend to get a little bit tired at times when he's pressured, but I do believe that overall he probably has the superior striking. Valdez is getting better with the striking as well. He has pretty good pull counters, and I've noticed that he's gotten a lot better in his ability to control distance and not be as aggressive. I think that going to Glory MMA has definitely helped him out a little bit, even though Glory MMA, man, I mean, that's a different topic for a different day. But yeah, man, with Valdez, I do think his front knees have gotten more dangerous, and he's going to be trying to pull Natan in some big shots. And I feel like his hands are a little better just because he pressures and he's aggressive with them, but his defense is really bad. He's taken a beating in his last 2 fights, so I do question his chin as well. And he has good grappling, but I feel like Natan Levy is the superior grappler. Natan Levy is a great scrambler, and his wrestling is pretty good as well. Good doubles, good trips. And I think he's going to be able to, even if Valdez gets him down, be able to sweep, get on top, and I think he'll be able to hit some takedowns of his own and be really dominant in that aspect. And that's what Valdez likes to do. He likes to get the takedowns, get the back, and get the finish. But I don't think he has that grappling acumen to compete with a guy like Natan Levy. So personally, I'm going to say Natan Levy weathers the storm in the first with Valdez coming in hot early, maybe landing some big shots. But I think that Levy's going to land some of his own. And I think eventually they're both going to get their respect, settle in. And I think Levy's going to hit a takedown, maybe land some punishing shots at the end of round 1, and then get the finish in the second via TKO or submission. So I'm going to go with Natan Levy. I think overall it's a fairly good matchup for him. I think that Valdez is a guy that sloppy grappler that leaves too many openings on the feet. Unless he pulls Natan into a big shot early with the hands or a big knee, I don't see him being able to compete long term. So I think Natan Levy eventually is going to be able to use his kicks, his footwork to, get the better of the striking and get some takedowns and eventually get the finish in the second. And we got 2 ranked fighters here going at it in this next fight with Tracy Cortez and Amanda Ribas. And Tracy Cortez has been perfect so far in a UFC run. She's going to be looking to make it 5 for 5 to start her career on Saturday. And she hasn't really faced great opposition, but she did beat Melissa Gatto. And outside the UFC, she does have some good wins. She beat Kayla Neal. She beat Maria Agapova. She beat Erin Blanchfield. And she hasn't lost. She lost her pro debut in August of 2017. If she could beat Amanda Ribas, I think she'll be, 1-2 fights away from a title shot. And Amanda Ribas, she's no longer that new girl on the block in the UFC. She came on the scene in 2019. And she's always had something about her that endeared her to the fans and media. She has a bubbly personality, a lot of energy, and in the cage, she does the business. She's 5-2 in 7 UFC fights now. She's mixed it with some of the best fighters UFC has to offer. She has some victories over girls like Mackenzie Dern, Randa Marcos, Virna Jandiroba, and she's lost only to the cream of the crop. She lost to Marina Rodriguez and Katlyn Chookagian. Both those girls are ranked inside the top 5. Her last fight, she did come up to 125. She lost split decision to Chookagian, and Chookagian's probably the second best women's flyweight in UFC history. So she and Ribas decided to stay up in this weight class. So she's going to be fighting at 125 again. And she may be a little undersized in certain matchups, but Tracy Cortez is not the biggest flyweight. So I think this fight, is going to be pretty evenly sized between both girls. And Tracy Cortez is a wrestler. She trains with the Fight Ready crew. She's a childhood friend with Henry Cejudo. She's engaged to Ortega. So she's engulfed in that grappling life, and she's strong. She always comes in excellent shape. She's very tough. She knows where her strengths lies, and she pretty much gets all her fights to the ground. And in terms of pure wrestling, I would argue Cortez is one of the best female wrestlers in the UFC. Really nice double. She could chain wrestle. She's relentless. She'll push a high wrestling pace, and her defensive wrestling is also very good. The only person I've seen really be able to get down and be effective on the ground against Tracy Cortez was Erin Blanchfield in the 3rd round of their fight. And Cortez, when she gets on top, she has good control, good from that wrestling ride position. She'll control the back, just mat return girls and kind of take the life out of them. Jiu-jitsu wise, she hasn't really shown too much. She has good submission defense and she has good positional awareness, but she doesn't really attempt submissions. Basically a pure wrestler that wants to get into a dominant position and hold position or ground and pound her way to victory. She did almost get submitted against Erin Blanchfield, and when she got put on bottom, she was dominated. But I've seen Cortez in multiple fights be able to get out of some bad positions when she gets taken down or get put on her back in a reversal. She was able to, get her back taken in certain fights. She got her back taken against Melissa Gatto in her last fight more than once, but every single time she was able to sneak out the back door, turn in, and get on top. And if Cortez gets put in bad position, she doesn't panic. She's shown the ability to get out of trouble, so that's good to see. Her submission defense, has also been tested where she's gotten put in some tight positions in terms of almost getting submitted, and it's been able to come through there as well. So I feel like her also coming in here in her last fight and out grappling a black belt and Melissa Gatto that is a dangerous submission artist that's going to give her confidence against anyone in the division. And on the feet, Tracy Cortez is improving, primarily defensively. She's a high guard, good distance control, but mostly just those 3-2s. Her leg kicks, body kicks are all right, but she does have a tendency to not really set her kicks up, and she can get countered off the kicks. She's also not great when she's pressured. She likes to go forward, and when she's pushed back, her main weapon is just wrestling. She's not very powerful, so fighters could sometimes be a lot more dangerous than her in the stand-up. And the next evolution for Cortez, which I feel like she was doing a little bit better in her last fight, is just improving with that evasive movement, being able to move backwards, move forwards, pull fighters into what she wants to do and set up her takedowns that way. And I think we're going to continue to see improvement with that. Cardio and strength-wise, we've seen progression for Cortez, and she always has a great gas tank. But she's going to be taking on a really good fighter, and a fighter that's had a lot of success against wrestlers and grapplers in her UFC run. All of Amanda Ribas' wins have came against grapplers. Her first fight, she beat Mackenzie Dern and Virna Jandiroba, who are arguably the two best jiu-jitsu girls in the UFC. She beat Randa Marcos, who's a good wrestler. And her losses are strikers with Marina Rodriguez and Caitlin Chookagian. But I think Tracy Cortez, with her size and her ability, is probably the best wrestler that Ribas has fought. The other girls have been more jiu-jitsu-based fighters besides Randa Marcos. But Amanda Ribas is the more well-rounded fighter in this matchup. On the feet, she's longer. She is taller. Or she's not taller, but she's longer and she's faster. And I expect her to try to close the distance with her pressure, with her feints. Try to, pressure but stay long. Her hands really aren't the greatest, but she has a good jab, good check hook. Her rear hand isn't bad. And she has the speed edge, so she's going to have the faster hands. She's going to be trying to land some counter punches. I would say she has the power edge in this fight also, and she throws some nice kicks. The best part of her stand-up game are front kicks, round kicks to the body, leg kicks, and she throws the front kicks up the middle to the head quite a bit too. And she should be effective against Cortez if she could stuff the takedowns on the feet. I think that she can control range. She's good at not overextending. Her chin has been a little bit questionable in her career, but I don't really see Cortez being a big threat to knock her out or to hurt her on the feet. But I think, for Ribas, she just has to be a little bit careful to not respect the wrestling too much and get frozen by some feints and then countered, or just be low volume and just pressure, not overextend, and you should be the better striker. For Ribas, in terms of the grappling, she's a judo black belt. She's strong in the clinch. She's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And I think she should be the better clinch fighter here. I feel like Cortez is going to be more trying to shoot in on the legs, and Ribas, she's been able to do a really good job overall against most girls that shoot in on her legs. She has real good sprawls, and she's very physically strong. But up at 125, we're going to see if that translates like it did at 115. But Ribas has also been able to take down all 7 of her UFC opponents, and she's a beast on top. She's heavy. She has great ground and pound. Her control is really good. She has some good rear naked choke finishes. And there's danger when Ribas can get the back. When Cortez gets the back, there's really not that danger there. I feel like Ribas on top is more dangerous. And Ribas takedown defense, I feel like potentially, even though I just said I feel like she has a good sprawl, that's been against girls that are jiu-jitsu based girls like Mackenzie Dern and Virna, who I don't really feel like have fast shots. She was taken out by Randa Marcos, and she was able to cue her scramble and get on top, but maybe her takedown defense, could be exposed a little bit in this fight. That's something that we really have not seen with a lot of, validation that she has good takedown defense. So I'm still a little bit worried about that, but I do think that her ability to threaten off of her back is really good. She can create scrambles really effectively, and I think that could potentially be the difference if she can use the leg locks to get on top if she gets taken down. And I think she has the grappling advantage. She just has to avoid getting held down and being too complacent on bottom. We saw her lose the first round of Virna Jandiroba because her submission attempts failed and she was held down for about 3 minutes. But, none of these girls that are high-level jiu-jitsu girls like Mackenzie Dern, like Virna Jandiroba, have been able to really be that effective threatening a Hannah Ribas or, being able to even really do much on the ground against her. So I think that Tracy Cortez, if she gets her down, is really just going to have to worry about controlling and grinding it out. And she's the type of girl that will defend positions and reversal attempts and keep the top position and get you tired and just hold you down. So Ribas just has to be smart and not allow that to happen. She should be able to have the advantage in the stand-up. And I think that as the fight goes on, it's going to be more pronounced if she just pressure, stay long, keeps that distance, feint counter when Cortez tries to close in. And, if you get taken down, try to work back up to your feet right away. And I think this fight's going to be a good test to see if Amanda Ribas should stick around at 125 because she can deny the takedowns or get back up to her feet if she does get taken down against Tracy Cortez. She's probably going to be able to do that against most anyone in the division. So it's a great matchup because I feel like Cortez is a difficult matchup for almost everyone in the weight class, but Amanda Ribas is a tough test. Ribas is going to have the length edge. She's going to have the speed edge. She's going to have the more diverse striking. She's going to have the grappling advantage. And pressure is also going to give her the edge in the stand-up. I think her takedown defense has not been tested much, but her distance control is good. She's a fantastic athlete. And I don't think Cortez is going to be able to get clinch takedowns or clinch control like she has in other fights. And I think that she'll need to get Ribas down with the shots on the legs, and she may be able to do that, but Ribas is super active off her back. I could even see her potentially winning off bottom. Cortez could hit some takedowns and grind out a decision, but I'm going to go with the more dynamic game, the more athletic girl, and Amanda Ribas. And I think even Ribas could potentially put Cortez on her back, and if she does, I think she's going to have the better potential to do damage and control there and be effective. So it could end up being a battle of who gets on top and who does better there. And I'm going to still edge it towards Ribas. I'm going to say Amanda Ribas wins this fight via decision. And up next here, we got a bit of a change into the guard type fight here with Darren Elkins and Jonathan Pearce. I feel like Jonathan Pearce is kind of the new school of Darren Elkins. Both these guys are gritty grinders that take damage, get inside, try to wrestle. It can, mix it up on the feet a little bit. Darren Elkins, he's tied for the most UFC fights at featherweight with 24. He has the second most wins of all time with 17. And Max Holloway is only at 19 wins, so he really is pretty close to that record. He is 38 years old, though, so he's not going to have too many more cracks in the UFC, so every fight is important. He is coming off a decision victory over Tristan Connolly. Jonathan Pearce, he's just getting started in the UFC. He's 4-1 in his first 5 UFC fights. He lost his debut to Joe Lozon, and since then he's won 4 in a row since coming down to 145. That fight with Lozon was up at lightweight. And he has 3 finishes in those 4 fights. He's coming off a win over Makwan Amirkhani, who's a fringe top 15 fighter. And he's getting a chance to now take out one of the most winningest fighters in the weight class. And I feel like this line is way off. I mean, I don't really get how you could, say Jonathan Pearce should be minus 420 favorite off the opponents that he's defeated, the guys that he's faced, and then looking at Darren Elkins' resume. But, I feel like he should be a pretty sizable favorite, like minus 250-ish. And it's because, I think that on the feet, I mean, it could be competitive. But I think that Pearce, having the height and the size advantage and throwing those kicks and being a little bit faster, more powerful is going to give him the edge there. He's the better athlete at this point, even though I think, both guys are kind of sloppy strikers. And the grappling, I don't really know, man. I mean, the grappling is competitive. I think that Elkins, he's a hard guy to just take down and out grapple for anybody. And Pearce is also a guy that's a really good scrambler, a guy that if he can get in a dominant position can pound you out and really hard to control, really hard to take down. So I have a feeling this fight might play out more on the feet. And I just think the size of Jonathan Pearce and the, youth, athleticism, speed, power just might be a little bit too much. But I think this is going to be a closer fight than a lot of people think. I think that Elkins, may even be able to make it a, close affair, but I think that JSP just has that youth edge, and it's hard to go against him here in this particular matchup. So I'm going to go with JSP to win this fight via decision. I don't think he's going to finish Elkins, though. And in this next fight, we got Michael Johnson taking on Marc Diakiese. Michael Johnson, he's a guy that's been around in the UFC forever now. He's a guy that, he's beaten some of the best. He's lost to some of the best. And overall, at this point, he's been losing more than he's been winning. He's won one of his last 5 fights, even though his last fight with Jamie Mullarkey was very close. And he's definitely looked like he has found a little bit of resurgence his last 2 fights. And he still is a competitive guy, but 36 years old at this point, he's getting up there, and he's definitely seeing his better days. And I feel like Marc Diakiese is starting to turn a corner here. He's reminding me a bit of Leon Edwards, and his not really, I'm saying he's going to become a champion, but he came into the UFC, got some cool knockouts, and leapt into that upper half of the division pretty quickly. And he had some setbacks, and due to those setbacks, it seems like he thought that he had to change it up. He went to America. He started training the American Top Team. Just like Leon Edwards, he went over and started training at American Kickboxing Academy after he took a few losses. But eventually he decided to go back to his original camp in England because it really wasn't working out. And he's gone 4-2 in his last 6 fights. He's had some real solid performances. And I feel like all but one of those fights he's looked good. Even in the Fiziev fight he lost, I thought he looked pretty good in that fight. And he came into the UFC a pure striker, but he's now rounded out his game. He's using a lot more wrestling. And in this fight, I just think that Diakiese has too many weapons. He struggled a little bit against pressure southpaw strikers, which MJ is, but I think MJ, even though his hand speed is still there, his foot speed is not. He can find it hard to land when fighters keep the range, kick from the outside, fight smart. He can get walked into pull counters, 1-2s. And he still has lightning fast hands in the pocket. He has a good counter right hook, good left cross. He's very dangerous. I just don't think Diakiese is going to give Johnson those opportunities to be in the pocket with him, nor do I believe that Johnson will be able to really get inside due to the footwork, counters, and kicks of Diakiese and the ability of Diakiese to mix it up and get the takedowns. If Johnson starts to pressure really heavily, then Diakiese can get those body locks, get him to the ground, and control him on top. MJ's going to have to pressure, sprawl, and brawl and make it more of a pocket fight. Diakiese is hittable when you can get on the inside, and if Johnson can make that happen, then it could be competitive. But one thing that gives me confidence is Diakiese has really good conditioning, durability. I think he's going to be hard to get out of there, and he proved that in a super tough fight with Rafael. And I think he's peaking. I think he's going to be able to use his footwork movement to stay on the outside, get some takedowns, and use his striking at range to get the better of Michael Johnson. So got to go with Diakiese in this one, and I'm going to say he wins this fight via decision. And this next fight, this is an interesting one. We got Clay Guida taking on Scott Holtzmann. And Clay Guida is almost 41 at this point, but he's still out there doing the thing. And he's a guy that I actually, like to pick, like to bet on. I know a lot of people, when they pick the other guy, swerve, I pick Guida. And we've actually probably had positive ROI betting him because he's always the underdog every time I usually pick him to win. And I pick him because he's consistent, man. You know what you're going to get out of Clay Guida. You're going to get a guy that is super durable, is very conditioned, that's going to pressure you, throw overhands. He's improved his boxing, and his wrestling is on point. And he's never going to shortchange you in terms of effort. He's never going to come in bad shape. He's never going to roll over and just take the easy way out. So there's certain things that I like about Clay Guida, and he has a wealth of experience that he can go back to and, use to figure things out and end up getting on the better end of the decisions if it goes 15 minutes. So I think that Guida overall has a lot of positive things that, usually make him a good underdog. But with Scott Holtzmann, I feel like he's a lot more harder to read. He has had an up and down career in the UFC, and his last 2 fights he's gotten knocked out, and he's also up there in age, 39 years old. He hasn't fought in over a year and a half, and it's good that he took the time off after the knockouts, but is he going to come back and have a chin? I mean, sometimes when that chin starts to go, it starts to go and doesn't come back. And will he look the same off the layoff? I mean, once you start getting up over 35, I feel like those layoffs, it could go one way or the other. You can get rejuvenated, or you can come back and look a little bit like a shell of yourself. So it's hard to be super confident in Scott Holtzmann, but Scott Holtzmann has historically done good against these older aging veteran guys. Like he did beat Alan Patrick, he did beat Jim Miller, he beat a couple other UFC wrestlers, and his last two losses, I mean, they're nothing to be ashamed of. He lost two guys that are in the top 10 and two of the best grapplers in the world in Beneil Dariush and Matheus Gamrot. And both those fights, he was able to keep it standing, which was pretty impressive to see. He was able to get back up to his feet quickly and stuff quite a few singles from Matheus Gamrot. And he was also able to keep it standing and actually had some pretty good success on the feet against Beneil Dariush before getting knocked out himself. But, with this fight, Scott Holtzmann, he's going to be looking to pressure, stuff the takedowns, and pull counter with that pull too. That's what he likes to do. And he's pretty good at it. He's athletic. He has the superior, foot speed and hand speed, I feel like, in this fight. And on the inside, he's dangerous too. He has good elbows, pretty good hooks on the inside, and he can work in that clinch. So he likes the pull twos. And then on the inside, he has some dangerous striking. And he also has improved his grappling and wrestling a lot. His wrestling defense has become very, very good. He's very hard to take down. He's very hard to control. We did see Nick Lentz, use some cage pushing and control to get the decision in that one, but he also had to use a lot of striking as well. And Holtzmann, he can also mix it up and hit some takedowns. When he gets on top, he actually is very effective with his ground and pound. In this fight, I mean, I don't really envision him getting any takedowns, but he is good with that. And he also comes in great shape. He has great cardio in most fights and always comes in good condition. He's tough. He's willing to throw down. But the things that, are unknown with him, or how is he going to look off the layoff? Is his chin going to still be there? Clay Guida isn't a guy that's really going to knock you out most of the time, but you never really know. And Guida did get that knockout over Joe Lozon back in the day. He was another guy that you could question his chin a little bit, so maybe he'll be able to do it again. But with Clay Guida, we have a guy that's going to bring that pressure. He's going to be staying in and out, and he's either going to be, he'll either bring the pressure or he'll circle a lot and get you to chase him, try to be evasive, and then dart in, dart out with punches, and dart in with the takedowns, and kind of use the feint level change to set up the overhands, and the overhands set up the takedowns. So he has that, up-down style. He has great cardio, and if he can get takedowns start to wear on you, then usually the night ends up going good for him. And he also has really good durability, so he can let guys beat on him a little bit and then stick in the fight and come back and get the win. We saw that on Leo Santos. But thing about Clay Guida is he does get hurt. He just has good recoverability, and sometimes when he gets hurt, he has a tendency to make mistakes in the grappling and the wrestling realm, where he'll shoot in panic takedowns and get caught in submissions, and he's been submitted 11 times, so that's something that's really befuddled him throughout his career. And shooting in after he's got hurt has cost him a lot of times. But Guida, I feel like in this fight he's going to be undersized. He's going to be a little bit slower than Holtzmann and a little bit worse on the feet. He's not going to be able to compete with the power. But, if he can get a couple of takedowns early that get Holtzmann a little bit frozen, then he could start to potentially have some success with the boxing coming forward too, because I feel like he actually has improved his striking quite a bit. And this is a pass fight for me. I really don't feel like either guy warrants a bet. And I'm going to go with Scott Holtzmann here. I'm going to say that he's going to be able to keep it standing, use that pressure, land that pull two effectively, and get the job done. But, Guida could win this fight just on activity and or optics alone. So I feel like this fight could go either way. I think it's a dog or pass situation. But this is one of those fights where I'm really not as gung-ho to go and bet on Guida, because I do feel like Holtzmann has the advantage in terms of he'll probably be able to keep it standing. So I'm a little bit worried about that if I was going to go on the Guida side. So I'm going to pick Holtzmann to win this fight via decision. I'm going to say it's, a fairly close fight, though. And for this next fight, we got Angela Hill taking on Emily Ducote. And Angela Hill, she had one of the best seats in the house for Emily Ducote's last fight. She was cornering Jessica Penne for that fight. And now she's looking to exact some revenge for her friend here. And she's coming off a big victory. Her last fight where she halted the momentum of Lupi Godinez. She won by decision. And that was the same scenario, except Jessica Penne did beat Lupi Godinez, but Penne fought Godinez. Angela was in the corner, and then Angela ended up fighting Lupi Godinez. And now in this fight, she's once again going to try to use that experience to beat another prospect. And Emily Ducote, she's 1-0 so far in her UFC career, but she had a lot of seasoning. She fought in Bellator. She was the Invicta champion. And she looks like a UFC veteran. She looked good against Jessica Penne. That's a former title challenger that she had to step in there for her first fight with, which is not easy to do, and she got the job done. And now she's getting an opportunity to work her way near the rankings with the win over Angela Hill. And Ducote, she's a really slick counterpuncher. She likes to press forward, and she's willing to sit in the pocket, feint, and wait. And when her opponents close the gap, she'll counter with the right cross or the lead hook. She'll go to the body with those shots as well and mix up the target. And she also has some good leg kicks and high kicks. She doesn't really throw much outside of the 3-2s and 2-3s. Her volume isn't too high, but she's very sharp, very accurate. And she has power, so she can keep fighters honest. Defensively, Ducote is pretty good at pull countering, but she is stationary. She can be hit with leg kicks, straight shots. She doesn't really move her head too well, and she does not do as good when fighters can pressure her and push her backwards. And Jessica Penne was able to be competitive, land a lot of crosses, bust the nose of Emily Ducote in their last fight. And I feel like Angela Hill is a much better striker than Jessica Penne. And Ducote was able to demobilize Penne by round 3 with the calf kicks, and it was 1-1 going into the third, but the calf kicks ended up basically winning Ducote the third round and the fight. And Ducote's tough, durable, and technical, so she's going to make it, difficult to beat her, and she's going to fight to her game plan. And she's a former wrestler, but she hasn't really used her wrestling much recently. She struggled a bit in the clinch, getting controlled, hit with knees, but she has good timing on her doubles, and when she commits to them, she's effective. And on top, she looks to be solid. Ducote has good control, good back takes, but she's not really that aggressive looking for takedowns. She's content to stay on the feet and pull counter. It's going to be interesting to see if she tries to take down Angela Hill, who's obviously had issues with grappling in the past, but has really put an emphasis on improving that area. And she has had some issues with takedown defense in the past, but her takedown defense has improved tenfold. She's really hard to take down now, and she's beaten quite a few grapplers recently. She has good cardio. She was able to dominate the third round against Jessica Penne, and she has the momentum on a 4-fight win streak. Angela Hill, she's a very good and experienced fighter. Pressure fighter, good feint game. She likes to work the 1-2. She has good long shots primarily. Nice leg kicks, good body kicks, good head kicks. She mixes it up better than Ducote on the feet. I think she has a wider arsenal of attack. She'll throw kicks, knees, punches, elbows. Great cardio, durability. She can push a high pace. I think Ducote has that advantage in the power more than likely, but Hill has the better footwork, movement, better volume, the wider arsenal of attacks. And it's a similar fight to Angela Hill's last fight with Lupita Godinez, who has to dictate the pace, the distance, pressure. She has to go first, feint a lot, try to be the more active fighter, and use her experience to navigate the win here. And Ducote has a pretty simple style, but it's a very sharp, effective style, so it's not necessarily easy to beat. And Angela Hill has really improved her grappling. In this fight, I feel like she's the superior grappler. She's a clinch monster. I feel like she's going to have the advantage in the clinch. And as time goes on, Hill can start to make use of the clinch more and more, try to change the tempo of the fight. And her takedown defense has gotten a lot better, and she's also became dangerous off her back. So I feel like Angela Hill is going to be able to stymie the game of Emily Ducote if she wants to go the wrestling route. And I think Godinez is a more powerful but not a sharp version of Ducote with better grappling, and she wasn't able to get her wrestling going or be effective. It was actually Angela Hill who was able to use a guillotine to sweep and do some nice things in the grappling realm in that fight. So I think that Ducote is going to see that and probably try to keep it standing. And this is a difficult fight to call, but I personally feel like the line should be flipped and Hill should be the favorite, which has started to happen more and more as the week has gone on. I think she's going to be the fighter pressuring. I think she's going to throw more out there. I also see Angela Hill being able to eat the shots to give shots, and that could be the difference because they both land, but Hill is landing more, and the more diverse attack, she could edge it. And I think she has the better grappling. So I'm going to pick Hill, and I think she's going to win this fight via decision here. This next fight pits two action fighters in a fantastic matchup. Phil Rowe is a new fighter. He's fought 3 times for the UFC. He's 2-1 in those fights. He lost his UFC debut in February of last year, but his last 2 fights have been second round knockout wins. His last fight was in February, so it's been almost 9 months since we've seen Rowe get down, but he was scheduled to fight Abubakar Nurmagomedov in July. That fight didn't end up materializing, and now he's getting Niko Price. Niko Price is a fighter who made a name for himself by scoring some brutal knockouts, and he always brings it. He debuted for the UFC almost 6 years ago at this point, which is pretty hard to believe. He fought in December of 2016. And he's been up and down, but he's only lost to ranked fighters. And he hasn't fought in over a year. His last fight was October of 2021. He won that fight via decision over a really tough vet in Alex Oliveira. And Niko has been looking for a fight, asking for a fight for a while now. So I think he's been ready and training, and he's been working with the MMA Masters, which I think could maybe give Price a resurgence in his career. MMA Masters is known for slick technical strikers, and Niko Price already has the power, explosiveness, and length. So shaping up the technique could make him a much better fighter. And we already saw that in his fight with Oliveira, that his striking looked much cleaner. This is a big fight for Niko Price, because if he loses this fight, he's going to be relegated to that fighter that puts on fun fights. And he has to win this fight to stick around and be able to stay in this top 15 mix. I feel like for Phil Rowe, it's a much less important fight. I feel like Phil Rowe is just getting started, and even if he drops this fight to Niko Price, he's still gonna have a record of 2-2 in the UFC, which might not sound that good, but I think he's still gonna kind of be where he's at and has the potential to move up, because he has a good skill set, but just is, in my opinion, needs a little bit of seasoning, and he needs to continue to prove that he can perform on fight night against wrestlers. But that's going to be the battle here. I mean, Niko Price, I think the game plan for him is going to be try to avoid getting in too many exchanges, because Phil Rowe just has that real slick boxing, and his reach is hard to deal with, 80.5-inch reach. But, I feel like if Niko Price can get Phil Rowe moving backwards, Phil Rowe is a little bit hittable at times, and he likes to stick in there. And we did see him get hurt in his fight with Leon Shabazian on the Contender Series, and we saw him get clipped up against Gabe Green a little bit. So I feel as if outside of the leg kicks, if Niko Price can land some big punches, we've already seen that he has that one-punch knockout power, and Phil Rowe could potentially go night-night. I don't think Phil Rowe has that same type of danger factor with his punching power, even though he hits hard as well. I think Niko has a pretty significant edge in one-shot power. But Niko Price, he has really improved his kicking game, which I think could pay dividends in this fight. The front kicks up the middle to back Phil Rowe up. The leg kicks, which I think could be effective. We saw Gabe Green really hurt Phil Rowe with the leg kicks. But more importantly, man, mix up that wrestling. Get the takedowns, get the control against the cage. And Phil Rowe does not have very good takedown defense. He accepts the takedowns, and he has really good jiu-jitsu. I think he really has faith in his grappling, so he almost lets guys take him down so he can work sweeps, get on top, and once he gets on top, he has a good control. He can get the back at submissions, pretty good ground and pound, and he also has a good guillotine, but I feel like that guillotine, he relies on it too much, and I don't think he's going to be able to finish guillotines against many UFC-level guys. And if Price gets on top, Price, makes guys pay on bottom. He has good ground and pound, good control. I feel like he's going to be superior to almost everyone that Phil Rowe has fought on the ground. I don't think Phil Rowe is going to really have a lot of success sweeping or being able to switch position if he gets taken down. And Phil Rowe has to keep it standing, and he's going to be looking to snipe Niko Price, looking to get Niko Price to, fight dumb, fight in exchanges, and potentially clip him. Maybe he's going to be looking to attack the body early to open up the head. So I think Phil Rowe is going to be, trying to be slick. He's going to be trying to pull Niko into these shots and be the more effective counter striker. But I feel like Niko Price has a lot of experience, and he's fought this style of fighter before. His last fight with Cowboy Oliveira, he fought Michel Pereira in a real close competitive fight. He got the win over Randy Brown. And I think that the wrestling is going to be a big factor. I think he's going to be able to use his size and grappling to slow down Phil Rowe a little bit. And then I think on the feet, he's going to be able to land some leg kicks, maybe minimize that movement of Rowe, minimize the power, and to be able to, in the boxing fluidity of Rowe. And I think he'll be able to land some counters. And I'm going to say he wins by decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got the TKO either. So I'm going to go with Niko Price in this one. I'm just going to rely on his experience and more well-rounded game to get the job done. And this next fight, I feel like, is another tricky one, because Kyle Daukaus, he's a fighter who's not really quite lived up to the hype in the UFC, if you ask me. He entered the UFC, he was 9-0. He was the CFFC middleweight champion, and he's definitely fought good opponents, but in his 6 UFC fights, he's only 2-3-1. And the 2 guys that he beat, Jamie Pickett and Dustin Stolfus, are low level in comparison to UFC level. His losses are to Brennan Allen, Phil Haas, and Roman Dolidze, which are all respectable losses to top 15 or fringe top 15 competition, but he's yet to get over that hump. If he wants to stick around in the UFC, Daukaus has to start getting some wins and, getting some good performances. And his other fight in the UFC was controversial, where his record would look a lot better with this victory, which was the fight where he kind of had that clash of heads with Kevin Holland, which led to Holland getting hurt, and then led to the sequence where Kyle Daukaus got the submission win. And even though Daukaus did choke him out, the fight was changed to a no contest. And many people feel like Daukaus was jibbed of that win. But, in his last fight, he got knocked out, Daukaus did, in a little over a minute. And he's coming back less than 6 months after that KO, which I don't really like to see. And I think Daukaus should have taken a little bit more time off. But nonetheless, we're going to see if he can get the win column over Eryk Anders. And Eryk Anders, even though he's not been getting the winning results, I feel like he's shown big improvements lately. Early in his career, he was criticized for taking a lot of quick fights in succession, staying in his gym in Alabama, and those decisions kind of allowed Anders to stagnate and stay at the same level for a long portion of his UFC career. Since 2021, I feel like he's taken more measures to get better. He's still fought pretty frequently. This is going to be his third fight of 2022, but he's moved and started training at Fight Ready MMA. Going to that gym has been fruitful for Anders. He's clearly improved. His last fight was really close. Many people felt like he should have got the win. And at 35 years old, I still think that he's getting better, but this is a make or break fight for Anders. He's been in the UFC since 2017, and I think the UFC likes him because he'll accept short notice fights. He has a semi-recognizable name at this point, but I don't really know where he goes with 3 losses in a row. I think the UFC potentially could cut him, but Eryk Anders, his style, he's a southpaw pressure fighter, big middleweight with a long reach, scary presence, and since joining Fight Ready, he's worked his grappling and wrestling much more. He'll also walk fighters down, throw 3-2s, uppercuts, try to clinch, control against the cage. He can't be low volume. He's a little bit stiff, but he's improved his speed, his footwork, and his wrestling isn't great, but he's good at controlling guys against the cage. And when he can get on top, he has good back takes, and actually he's fairly fluid on the ground. And he also has good cardio, so if he can get that up-down going with some takedowns, then usually he can kind of start to wear guys out. And he struggles when fighters pressure him. He doesn't have the best defense in exchanges. Fighters with fast hands that can throw in combination can land on Anders. But Anders does have a good chin. His last fight, he was landing the pull 2, the left straight, a lot more effectively. But in his career, Anders has struggled with southpaws in the UFC. He's 1-4 in 5 fights against southpaws. And the one win was the split decision victory over GM3 that could have went either way. But his opponent, Kyle Daukaus, he's a southpaw and long, rangy, fast hands, good combinations. He needs to have more faith in his boxing because he's slick, and I think he can box some fighters up. Power-wise, Daukaus doesn't possess big power, and his chin is questionable. That may be why he doesn't trust his striking too much, but he has issues when fighters get close to him, when he likes to clinch, landing knees on him, man. He doesn't do good with his positioning. It happened in his fight with Brendan Allen, and it happened again in his fight with Roman Dolidze, which led to the knockout. But Daukaus does a really good job setting up his level changes with the punches, real fast singles and doubles, and he's a great grappler. When he gets on top, he is aggressive with the submissions and transitions, so sometimes that can lose him position, but he's also very dangerous due to that. His Darce is a go-to for him. He has several Darce finishes in his career. His last win was a Darce submission win, and I feel like Daukaus has his back up against the wall here, but this is a dog or pass fight for me. I think Daukaus is more skilled. He can mix in some takedowns early, then probably he'll be able to take some speed and power away from Eryk and work his boxing, be effective, and win the fight. But I could also see Anders walking him down, landing that rear cross, clinching, landing a knee, potentially hurting Daukaus or just controlling him, controlling the pace. But because historically Anders has struggled with that southpaw style, I think once again he can run into some problems on the feet. And I think that being the lesser grappler maybe could be an issue for him as well. So I'm going to go with Kyle Daukaus via decision, but this is a fight I think should be lined quite a bit closer. And up next, this fight's a short notice fight, but it's a great fight between 2 of the best grapplers in the division. Jack Hermansson, he's been a top 10 staple for a couple years now, and he was getting ready to fight arguably the best wrestler at middleweight in Derek Brunson, so his wrestling training will have been intense this camp, and he's likely going to be in great shape. And stepping in for Brunson is Roman Dolidze, who's 5-1 in the UFC, and since Michael Bisping called him out for being boring, he's been murking fools. I mean, Roman Dolidze's last 2 fights came in as the underdog, but came out the winner by first round knockout. He's become much more aggressive, and his power is evident. He just fought Phil Hawes on October 29th, so he's riding a wave of momentum, and he's going to be looking for his 3rd victory in less than 6 months. So this is an interesting fight because I feel like a lot of people are kind of overlooking Roman Dolidze again, even though he's came in back-to-back times as the underdog and gotten a big knockout win. So I feel like Roman Dolidze is an underrated guy. He's extremely fast, man. That's something that kind of really leaps off the screen at me. I'm really surprised at how fast this guy can close the distance. His hand speed, super, super fast guy and very powerful. He doesn't really have the best striking, though. I feel like he really reacts a lot to feints, really has, not the best defense either to kicking. He doesn't check leg kicks. I feel like Jack Hermansson with his footwork, with his kicking game on the outside, could definitely give Dolidze a lot of issues because he also has the reach advantage. But if this gets on the inside, I think Dolidze has a big edge in terms of the hands. I think he has the power edge, and he has really, really good hand speed, and he's super explosive. He can close that gap. So Hermansson has to be really smart, be on point with his striking game. And one of the reasons why I think that this fight is dangerous is because Roman Dolidze is a guy that, like I said, he can explode in and get the knockout at any time. And he also can offset guys' ability to take him down because of the leg lock game and his guard game. It's very, very high level. This guy's an ADCC champion. So I don't know if Hermansson's really going to be confident or want to take this guy down. I could see Hermansson going the route of maybe trying to work the clinch, but Roman Dolidze is also proven to be real proficient in that clinch, controlling guys, and that's kind of what he likes to do. So I don't know if Hermansson is really going to be getting the edge there. I feel like Hermansson is going to probably be the most effective trying to stay at range and use his kicking game and counter punches to keep the leads on the outside, throw a lot of feints, and just kind of do what he did in his last fight with Chris Curtis and try to win with the striking. And Roman Dolidze, I think, he has real good wrestling as well. I mean, I think it's good that Jack Hermansson has been training for Brunson because Roman has real fast level changes and good takedowns. So I feel like Roman potentially could maybe get a couple takedowns if he really, really commits. But I don't necessarily see him having a lot of success controlling Hermansson or out wrestling him like that. So I think it'd probably be smart to just kind of try to conserve your energy and try to find that, explosive knockout rather than try to get yourself tired by trying to grapple this guy, especially coming in on short notice. I'm going to go with Hermansson just because of the experience that he has, and I think that he can use that feint kicking game, and he is a guy that fights to a game plan. I think he'll be smart here and be able to do that. But Roman Dolidze is a live dog because he can get that finish at any point with a knockout, and I think he's the superior grappler, actually. So I think this fight's close, and I feel like Dolidze by finish and Hermansson by decision are both decent bets, but I'm going to pick Hermansson to win this fight via decision. And this next fight, I don't really have a big interest in this fight from a betting perspective or from a breakdown perspective because I feel like it's a pretty volatile fight. Anytime you have Tuivasa in there, it's going to be hard to predict. I mean, even though his last fight, everyone was picking him to lose against Serghei, he gave everyone a heart attack by dropping Serghei, almost getting him out of there, and that's what he has. He has that one-punch knockout power. He has the ability to shut your lights out, and anytime a fighter is capable of that, they're in the game for the full 15 or 25 minutes. And Tuivasa has improved his cardio. He has real heavy leg kicks, and he is fairly athletic, technical. He can close the gap, and he has big power. So he's always going to be dangerous. He's also very durable, and he's down to brawl. But his last fight, he did get knocked out, which he's coming back pretty quickly after that. And he's facing a big Russian in Serghei Pavlovich with I believe, the longest reach outside of Francis in the division. And this guy's super technical. Southpaw. He has really fast hands. He throws punches in combination. And he's proven to have real big power as well. So the thing with Serghei that we don't really know is his toughness. I don't really know if he gets in a real tough, gritty fight. Is he going to be able to stick in there? Does he have a great chin? And also his grappling. I mean, his grappling got a little bit exposed against the Overeem. When he got taken down, he got pounded out and finished pretty quickly. But I feel like he has the wrestling advantage against Tuivasa, and he's the bigger guy. And on the feet, I just feel like he's more technical. He has a 9-inch reach advantage. He has the speed advantage and the boxing advantage. So I think Ty's going to have to land those leg kicks and really hurt that leg of Pavlovich, get him to brawl with him, get him desperate, and then, get the knockout win like he always does. But I feel like Pavlovich is going to kind of pick him apart here, and I'm going to say Pavlovich gets the knockout in this fight in the first round. So I'm going to go Serghei Pavlovich via first round knockout here. I think Tuivasa is coming back a little bit too fast, and just overall, I think that Serghei is a really, really, really rough customer, a guy that is super, super technical and has great boxing, throws in combination, has speed for a big guy, crazy reach, southpaw. I think he is a problem for a lot of guys in the UFC. He's coming off that big knockout win over Derek Lewis. Might have been a little bit premature, but I think this guy definitely has the ability. He's also gone 5 rounds, so he's proven his cardio in the past, and he's getting into his prime, 30-ish years old at this point. So I'm going to go with Pavlovich via first round KO. And this next fight, this is another fight that I think the line has gotten way out of hand with Matt Schnell versus Matheus Nicolau. I think it should be lined closer. And Matt Schnell, I mean, he's coming off that epic fight of the year contender with Sumandarji, where he looked dead to rights and then came back, got the finish victory of his own. And Matheus Nicolau, he's coming back. He got the win over Manel Cape, but it was a very, very boring fight, that really not a lot happened, but Matheus Nicolau was able to have a couple moments and get the decision due to that. And now he's looking to kind of get this win and then get a top 5 guy next, because since he's came back to the UFC, he's been flawless, and his only loss in UFC competition has been to Tim Elliott. So Matheus Nicolau, I feel like he's one of the most skilled fighters, most athletic fighters at flyweight. He has great counter striking. He's very technical, very fast. He mixes it up with the punches and the kicks, and he is a great, like I said, counter striker. So his footwork is on point. He doesn't really put himself in a lot of bad positions, but he needs to be more aggressive, and he needs to cement the wins in certain fights. In this fight, he can't let Matt Schnell kind of point him, because Matt Schnell is going to have the height and reach advantage, and Matt Schnell has fast hands and nice 1-2. So if Matt Schnell can kind of outpoint him, feint, throw the 1-2s, use his hand speed, and keep Nicolau on the outside, and Nicolau doesn't do enough, then, maybe Schnell can get the win. But Matheus Nicolau also has really good grappling, good wrestling, good timing on the doubles, good control on top, solid submission game. And I think that he could take down Schnell and just has to avoid getting submitted in that full guard, which being a black belt, I think he'll probably be able to do. And, navigate on top and get the win that way. And Nicolau has the cardio, he has the gas tank. Both these guys do. For Matt Schnell, I think he's the guy that is willing to take more risks. I mean, they call him Danger for a reason, and he goes out there and he's willing to go for it to get the win, and he's a dynamic guy that goes out there. You'll either try to get the knockout, and then if you take him down, he'll try to submit you off his back. He's always looking for the finish. And I like Matt Schnell. I think his style is good, but his chin, man, is really questionable. I mean, he's gotten knocked out. He's gotten, in his last fight, taken an incredible amount of punishment, and I feel like Matheus Nicolau is just a little bit better at everything. He's more technical. He's more athletic. But it's just going to come down to if Nicolau is going to put that pedal on the gas and cement himself here. I mean, he could get another boring win, or he could go out here and get the finish on Matt Schnell. So I'm going to, hope that he is aggressive here, trust his skill set, and I'm going to say he gets a second round knockout on Matt Schnell here. And in the co-main event here, we got RDA taking on Bryan Barberena, and this is a good one. I mean, we usually don't get to see RDA in non-title fights. I think 7 of his last 8 fights have been title fights, or not title fights, excuse me, main event fights, and some of them have been title fights, but main event fights. And so he's going to be in a 3-rounder here, and it's cool to see Bryan Barberena start to get these names, man. I mean, this is a guy that is underrated. He's a guy that, in my opinion, he's put blood, sweat, and tears in the UFC, and he's earned these higher level matchups. Now he's gotten to fight Matt Brown. He's gotten to fight Robbie Lawler. Now he's getting there with the RDA. It's pretty cool. And RDA is a guy that he'll give anyone the opportunity, man. I mean, this guy will fight a fucking tiger if you tell him to go in there and fight a lion. I mean, he's going to sign his name on the dotted line. This guy doesn't give a shit. And you could tell by his resume, and that's one of the reasons why I always have a lot of respect for RDA, on top of him being just an extremely good fighter, former champion. And, Bryan Barberena, he's coming off that 3-fight win streak. He's coming off the win where he knocked out Robbie Lawler in a pretty dramatic fight. And RDA is coming off a knockout loss to Rafael in a fight where it was competitive, but RDA ended up getting finished late in the fight. And I do think a little bit of, I think if, that fight was in February instead of July, RDA would have a lot better chance to win when he fought Moicano. I feel like he looked really, really good in that fight, but he obviously is a really big lightweight, and he had to cut weight twice in about 5 months, fought twice in 5 months, and it didn't go his way. Fighting a real young guy in his second crack of this year, but now he's moving up to welterweight. He's kind of said that he's dropped that chasing the title at 55, and he's just trying to look for fun fights. And some people could see that as a negative, but with a guy like RDA, he's always going to come in shape, but he's not going to job you on effort. So I'm not really worried about it from that perspective. I more think of it as a more dangerous guy, because now when these guys get older, some of these fighters, when they start to get older, they get that kind of don't give a fuck mentality. And RDA with that different mentality, I mean, it could make him a much more dangerous fighter. But with this matchup against Bryan Barberena, I mean, I think personally this is a pretty good stylistic matchup for RDA. I think RDA has a really big edge in the wrestling, huge edge. And, his grappling is top notch. I mean, when you get taken down by RDA, it's, arm triangle danger, it's back take danger, it's elbows to the face danger, and you're usually not getting back up to your feet, man. And with Bryan Barberena, he has lost fights to guys like Jason Witt for taking him down. He's gotten taken down 6, 7, 8 times against fighters like Anthony Ivy. Bryan Barberena, I mean, we love Bryan Barberena because he's a guy that wants to get inside, he wants to exchange with you, throw elbows, brawl, and he has a real nice inside game. I would say he's some of the best inside fighting at welterweight. And, if you make it a war with him, he's a guy that could take it, give it, and, eventually put you out or win a decision by just outworking you. So Bryan Barberena, if he keeps it on the feet, he always is a difficult matchup for anyone. But I think RDA, he has really good striking as well with his southpaw style. And the difference is the wrestling, man. I think he's going to be able to get takedowns rather easily. And I'm going to say he gets a second round submission here with an arm triangle on Bryan Barberena. Barberena's a real tough guy, but matchup-wise, I just think this is a real bad matchup. And I think RDA is, one of the best fighters in UFC history. And I just don't think Bryan Barberena is on that level. Even though he beat the Robbie Lawler, the Matt Browns, I don't think RDA is on the decline like those guys are. And I don't think those guys were as good skill-wise as RDA is either. So I'm going to go with RDA to get the win here, and I'm going to say it's a second-round submission. And finally, we got the main event here, and this is a sick fight, man. I mean, we got a striker's delight. Stephen Thompson taking on Kevin Holland. And, man, I like both these guys. I mean, it was pretty sick. It was, if you go check it out, Kevin Holland's podcast, they did a full podcast together where they're sitting down just, talking and going back and forth like they're not about to fight in a couple weeks. So both these guys, they're two of the nicest guys in the weight class. Even though Kevin Holland seems like he always gets into it with certain people, he's a real nice guy as well. And Stephen Thompson, the NMF. So, man, I mean, I feel like a lot of people are writing off Stephen Thompson like he's totally done here. But you have to remember, I mean, the guy did fight back-to-back guys that just try to take him down at will. And that's not going to be the case here. I mean, the only guy that you could really definitively say, I mean, we know Tyron Woodley got a couple wins over Stephen Thompson, but he used wrestling in or one win over Stephen Thompson, but he used wrestling in those fights, and he also had the threat of the takedown. Darren Till got a, win over Stephen Thompson, which, I don't really know. I don't really feel like it was a legit win. I feel like Stephen Thompson won that fight, but the only guy that you could really say outstruck or beat Stephen Thompson in a striking fight is Anthony Pettis. That's it. I mean, Anthony Pettis knocked him out. Stephen Thompson was beating his ass, but Anthony Pettis ended up catching him and knocking him out, and that's the only guy that's ever knocked out Wonder Boy, and that's the only guy, in my opinion, that's really can say is outstruck Wonder Boy. And Wonder Boy, I mean, man, he's arguably the best striker in UFC history, or one of. I mean, the guy knocked out the Reaper, Robert Whittaker. He smoked Johnny Hendricks and Rory McDonald. He, even as an older man, was able to go in there and beat the brakes off of Jeff Neal and Vicente Luque. So this guy, he's a bad motherfucker when he could just keep it standing, and you know what he's going to do. I mean, you know how this fight's going to go, honestly. I mean, I feel like Stephen Thompson's going to be winning the whole fight until he isn't, or he's going to win the decision or get the, knockout in Kevin Holland, which I think is a lot less likely. I think he'll probably win a decision, and Holland will probably have to win via knockout. But, yeah, I mean, Thompson, he's going to be looking to pressure, use his feints, the lead leg side kicks, and then use that lateral movement, evasive movement, pull Kevin into shots and move. He's going to try to blitz in. He's going to do all his little tricks with the striking, man. He's going to be switching stance. He's going to be, working those kicks. And we've seen Holland kind of struggle a little bit with guys with real good speed, in and out movement with leg kicks. We saw Alex Oliveira win the first round against him. We even saw Charlie Oliveras giving him a little bit of issues and made Holland take him down. So I think, Thompson, with that speed and with his, just his striking acumen, is going to give some issues to Kevin Holland, especially early on. But with Kevin Holland, I mean, we got a guy that has a crazy reach. He comes in great shape at welterweight. He's a lot younger. He's going to be, in my opinion, the faster puncher. I mean, his punches are super fast. And he throws punches like a whip, man. I mean, he doesn't really necessarily throw with power, but he has huge power because he has such long arms, and he can just catch you kind of like the Tommy Hearns effect type thing. So I feel like Holland, he's unorthodox with his striking. I mean, his striking is real awkward and weird, and I wouldn't really say it's technical, but he finds shots, man. You'll throw the front kicks to the face. You'll throw a lot of leg kicks, some weird type of side kicks, things like that, and he has good pull twos. And I feel like in this fight, he's going to be hanging back a lot, and he's going to be trying to get Steven Wonderboy to go first and try to pull counter him with that pull too that we've seen him hurt a lot of people with. And we've seen Stephen Thompson kind of get walked into shots and get hurt before. And I think that if Holland has to and has to start to get aggressive, I think he could do that too. But I think if he starts to really try to chase and throw a lot of punches on Wonderboy and try to be offensive, I think that's where Wonderboy's going to start to get, really offensive and start clowning Holland. So Holland has to, maintain his emotions here if he's getting outpointed and stick to the game plan. And I'm just, man, I want to pick Stephen Thompson, man. I really do. But I just feel like Kevin Holland just has to land that one cross or the one counter elbow or the one counter hook or one front kick to the face, and it could be it. I mean, even though Wonderboy's been knocked out one time, we've seen him get dropped quite a few times and get hurt. And I just feel like Kevin Holland, with the youth, the length, and just being dangerous on the feet, might be enough to get the job done over Stephen Thompson this one. I feel like it's going to be one of those fights, like I said, where Stephen Thompson's going to be winning until he loses, and it's either going to be Kevin Holland knocking him out or Stephen Thompson taking that decision. And I'm going to go with Kevin Holland via fourth round KO. I'm going to say that Stephen Thompson looks good in this fight, and he's going to look a lot better than he has against Bilal and against his opponent Gilbert Burns, where he's just getting taken down the whole time. But I just think Kevin Holland is going to clip him at one point and get him out of there. So I'm going to go with Kevin Holland, but not a fight I'm really confident in. I want to see the fight play out, and I'm just interested in watching it as a fan. So from a betting perspective, I'm kind of staying away from it, but I'm going to go with Kevin Holland by knockout here. And I know a lot of people are real confident Holland's going to get the job done, but I think they're kind of, not looking at it from the full picture. I think Stephen Thompson, his last two fights have been real bad matchups, and this one is not a bad matchup. So we could see a resurgence. We could see Stephen Thompson come in here and beat the brakes off Kevin Holland. So I wouldn't put it past him. And I'm going to go with Kevin Holland, though, by knockout. So I'm going to go say Kevin Holland wins fourth round KO TKO. So thanks for watching, guys. That's the full breakdown for UFC Vegas or UFC Orlando, not a UFC Vegas card this time. And yeah, man, I really like this card. I feel like it's one of the better fight nights of the year. It's a really big fight night, 15 fights. And definitely check out the Patreon, man. I'm going to have some bets for this one, and really urge you guys to go over there and check it out and make some money. And, if you want to, get some extra breakdowns, videos for some other promotions, and have some more access talking to me and things like that, then definitely recommend you going over there. And besides that, hit the like button on this video, comment down below who you think is going to win in the main event, co-main event, and what your best bet of the night is. I would be interested in hearing that. And besides that, guys, for my most confident pick on the card, I'm going to go with RDA. And for my parlay of the week, I'm going to do a parlay of Rafael dos Anjos, Marc, Diakiese, and Natan, Levy. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to be back next week with a UFC 283 prediction video and hopefully a Bellator video. So be on the lookout for that. And besides that, always appreciate all the support, and I'll talk to you guys later.